I'm sure you've all heard your parents say, when I was a kid, or when I was your age, we didn't have this, or followed by a contradicting statement of you being on your phone or tweeting or texting.
But somehow we always manage to like blur out whatever it is that they're saying just to get them to stop talking until they're not. But I was wondering if you guys had ever asked them, like, how did you guys spend your childhood and what did you guys do for fun? Simple stuff like that. Like, it's quite interesting what they could say about it. Like it's crazy how much times have actually changed, but nobody has ever paid attention to how much times have changed or why they've changed.
When comparing today's generation, the millennials, to the 1950 generation teens, the two are complete opposites. So after conducting 6 interviews, we found the difference.
So the 1950s and the 1960s were full of peace and steadiness. You know, World War II had just ended, so many people were moving out into the suburbs to, create a family. And this era was essentially known as the baby boom generation. So my grandmother was born in the 1950s, well, was a teenager in the 60s. But she was born in Mexico, so her childhood was quite differently than those who were born here. So as I interviewed her, I noticed that a lot of her lifestyle choices were differently. So nowadays, people like to wear like open clothing and crop tops and skinny jeans. But my grandmother mentioned that back then, women used to wear long dresses. And men used to dress formally too, compared to today's shorts with socks and sandals. As well, some popular music back then were the Beatles, the Beach Boys, Bob Dylan, Janis Joplin. But considering that she had never listened to music until she moved to the United States, she never owned a radio, so she never knew who any of them were. As well as she also never owned a car, which is something that is crucial for all of these, for us to have nowadays. And she only attended school for maybe about 3 years, saying that she had barely learned enough to know how to read and write because it was more important for her family, for her to work, than for her to get an education. Back then, things were a lot more simpler, and they enjoyed the smallest little things. In particular, something that I had found really interesting was that only the rich people went to the movies. Everybody else would be stuck going to her older brother's house because he was the only one who owned the TV in their neighborhood. And they would watch movies in black and white. The popular movies were Singing in the Rain, Breakfast at Tiffany's, and a few others. And they would pay 25 cents to watch these movies in black and white. She never owned a bike, she never owned a cell phone, and she never played with toys. Her way of entertainment was playing with marbles in her front yard, and eventually that's how she met my grandfather. Now he would come around and he would pull her hair, and then he would make her cry, and then do it again all over for whatever reason. And then eventually he asked her out, and she denied him in fear of what the neighborhood would say about her. But then eventually she overcame that, and she said yes. And their dates consisted of walking around the lagoon and going to the park, and eventually they married at the age of 16. Now, what was so beautiful about this was that as she told me that she had such a beautiful smile on her face. Like she was remembering all of this all over again, which is something worth so much more than a cell phone that we carry with us or a laptop that we do all of our work on. She showed pure joy and happiness as she told me all of this, which is something that this generation is in lack of. Like we're always so worried about the things that we don't have or the things that we think we need that probably won't even give us half of the smile that my grandmother had on her face at that moment. So this interview not only proved that a generation can change based on culture, but based on where they come from as well.
Alright, when I interviewed Dave Malinowski, my dad, I found out that in the 70s, for fun, they would hang out in each other's basements, go roller skating, or go to football games. He went to Joliet Catholic High School, and he then attended Illinois State University. For fashion, what was really big, he said, was jean jackets, bell-bottom pants, and like button-up like blouses for girls. Popular movies at this time were Saturday Night Fever. It was really big because the Bee Gees, a group in the 70s, they did the whole album for that. Also, it was really Rocky Horror Picture Film. That was really big too. It was like an interactive movie that you could go watch, play in the background, and then the audience would interact with kind of like talking towards the movie, like you'd yell stuff out. And then there'd be someone on a stage acting the movie out. Movies in the 70s cost about $2 for admission, which is crazy when compared to today, which is $12 to get in. And music that was really big was Led Zeppelin, Fleetwood Mac. I passed out some vinyl and a few cassette tapes. You guys can look at them, just like that were big from that time. So the 70s were pretty much about more laid back and peace, and you could see the generation started getting more careless when compared to the 60s. And then when I interviewed Lisa Martinez, Jocelyn's mom, she was born in 1971, and then she attended high school in 1986. And the 80s were really, everything was really obnoxious and corny, like the movies. A lot of John Hughes movies were pretty big then. And for music, cassette tapes were used a lot in the 80s, and for fashion it was really big hair, tight pants. Jocelyn's mom actually said that she remembers carrying cans of hairspray no matter where she went. And Atari was really big. It was a video game in the 80s. And for movies, Pretty in Pink, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, 16 Candles were really big. And for music, New Order was really popular. And
Madonna.
yeah, Madonna was a huge fashion icon in the 80s. And for fun on the weekends, they would go dancing at night, my mom said. And when you needed to do homework, you'd have to go to the library to do homework, because that's how you'd use a computer or research. And pagers were used for communication instead of a cell phone or iPhone.
Alright, so for the 90s, music that was really popular was Red Hot Chili Peppers, Smashing Pumpkins, Tupac, Nirvana, even though Joe hates them. So we talked to Joanna. Oh, no. I talked to her. Anyways, we talked to Joanna's dad, and the fashion was like more overalls, crop tops, things that are coming back now. When they hung out, they just hung out with friends. They went to the movies, which was $4. And the movies that were good were like Forrest Gump. We had Fight Club, Pulp Fiction. More raunchy films were made in the 90s. See, that was really fun. But yeah. So for the there it goes. So for the 2000s, I talked to my sister, and she had a lot to say. Most I couldn't present here, but one of the things that was really interesting to me was she was talking about how this generation is very open. And when she was in high school, social media was really fresh, and so there was kind of unwritten boundaries on what you do and don't say. And since we're so used to being on social media, we just kind of say whatever we want, do what we want, and so we're a very open generation. So for electronics, there were flip phones, not iPhones. The iPod didn't even have a speaker at this time, so you had to plug in your headphones. Songs were more diverse. It wasn't really anything specific. The Croc was invented in 2002. Love them. Denim was big. And then everything was really just less not personal now. It was more personal back then than it is now.
The definition nostalgia is a sentimental longing for the past or activities that you've experienced, and that's what we kind of got from interviewing all these people. Like when I interviewed my dad, he laughed about stuff that happened in high school and said, "I can't tell you everything that happened in high school because, I mean, you guys are teenagers, so you probably know what goes on." But yeah, we kind of felt nostalgic just interviewing them. Like we felt how they were excited telling us about all their experiences that they experienced, and yeah.
So we didn't exactly come here to let you know how horrible this generation is, but we do want you to feel a lot more respect towards the decades before you guys, because there's so much more to this world than a small LTE screen that we carry everywhere. So don't be scared to ask your parents how they spent their childhood.
Before this project, me and Jocelyn planned on interviewing the elderly at Timbers Nursing Home in Shorewood, but then we realized that if we wanted to get to know each of the elderly that lived there and then make a video of them, but then we realized that was really time consuming with our schedules.
We work half the week, and then this is not our only class, and so it's just too time consuming, and so then our curiosity decreased and we became really uninterested, but this was actually really interesting.
Yeah, and originally I was in a different group too. We were supposed to interview people's happiest and or saddest moments of their lives. Then I realized that project didn't really have a purpose, so I wanted out. And I kind of had a similar idea, and I wanted to do almost something similar to theirs, so they just took me in, I guess. And we created this project, and it ended up being really good. We learned a lot from them. We have a lot more respect towards generations.
And since we're spread out through all three classes, we communicated through Google Docs, texting, so technology really did help us with this project because all of our work, we had a Facebook page that we put our interviews on, and we gave each other our ideas through Google Docs. So.
And a lot of hardcore out-of-school planning.
We met at the library.
Mornings, and we are not morning people, so.